I guess we are successfully live. I It's been a while since I've done one of these, huh? Um oh wow, you can see the refresh rate on my um I could just be me, but you can see the refresh rate on my lighting there. But I just want to say hi. Um Here I am. I'm alive. I know I've done some stuff. I don't remember specifically what it was I have done previously, most recently, I should say. I'm just loading up my channel to see what the most recent stuff I have done is. Um, I guess it was 7 months ago. I streamed Rainbow Six. Yeah, I guess so. So I'm alive. All things considered, I'm doing okay. Um, Not going to be pessimistic about all this. Uh, I want to be honest and genuine about what's going on and stuff. Uh, I I don't know where to start. I don't know what people might be interested in. Um, what has value to mention? As you can see, my environment has changed again. Um, uh, so a while back, I was living with my friend. That's the last videos are with that. Back in what's the month that comes before September? August. August. Yeah, July, August, September. Yeah, August. So in August, um, July, August time frame, my buddy sort of discussed with me about moving out, not very clearly, but apparently it's what he wanted. So we went ahead and talked about that. And I one moment, please. Uh, all right, so my apologies. I'm back. Um, let's see. Uh, so plenty of good stuff has happened. Some more challenging things in life have also happened. So, the last video journal specifically that I did, if I recall, a year ago. Um, so I would have either just gone back to the team. So I've been on the unload team again since January last year. So I have been on there for a year. I don't know if I talked about it last time or if it's just kind of spitballing a year because it's a little less or a little more or whatever else. But so um yeah, I've been doing unload for a while. I'm pretty miserable. I've been trying to, in regards to my work, I've been trying to transfer for 8 weeks now. Um, and I had, I've been wanting to do these for a while, but I was just trying to make sure because of some stuff that's happening in my personal life that all my ducks were in a row. So I went back and I made sure that there was nothing incriminating in my previous video journals. Um, there was only one I was really worried about, which is the one where I'm in my car, and I was worried that I may have made it seem like I wanted to kill myself more than than I actually wanted to, which I really didn't. Then I was just kind of stuck and felt emotionally, if I can recall. And also, like I said, I watched that video to make sure that I could leave it up. I didn't remove any videos, though I was willing to, just because I don't want any of the legal ramifications to come into it off of something that I was dealing with acutely. I haven't removed any of the videos. I've left them up unedited. Um, because I actually think it sort of exemplifies what I was going through and why I made the decisions I made during those times. I can't say that I was always the wisest in those decisions, but I think it reinforces the decisions I made. So, that being considered, um, this pops out, right? Yeah, let's go pop out with this. I'm gonna need it, but it's there if I need it. So, got it. Um, Plenty's happened. I've been trying to transfer the last 8 weeks just because I've been kind of stuck in a rut, want things to change, feel like my hands are bound. Um, but I'm not. I ended up going back through all my video journals just to be sure, right? Like to make sure that um I wasn't going to hurt my reputation. And I gotta say, some of them I'm not. I won't say I wasn't lying, and I was being genuine for who I was in those moments. But holy shit, am I full of shit? And I don't mean that like, like I said, like I'm lying or anything. But sometimes I guess I was romanticizing existence, both in the negatives and positives, which is something I miss. I definitely miss that. But I'm far more bitter and cynical at this point in my life. Um, but anyway, um, backpedaling my tangent. Um, so, Buddy asked me to move out in August, essentially. He said I've got as much time as I need, 3, 6 months, whatever I need. But my mom, I don't know if I talked about it because I don't really remember that journal specifically. I know I've made other videos since that journal, but those journals, no specific updates about how things are going in my life, about how things are structured or happening or anything like that. So my mom moved to Colorado. Oh shit, I guess I don't know. I've never said where I live, but she moved to the state, not too far from where I was living. Um, and it had always been my plan sometime within the year. So sometime within, I guess, 2022. Is that right? Yeah, sometime within 2022, I was going to be moving into her place so that I can have a stronger support system, so that I might be able to take my daughter more and things like that. So that I might be able to have her more frequently. And if I go ahead with the divorce and everything, that I'll have a stronger set of circumstances to sort of bolster my rapport with the courts. Um, so he's all like, "Hey, I want you to move out." And I was like, well, I was already kind of planning on moving with my mom. And then during that time, my ex contacts me saying, "Hey, I want to sell the house. We'll use it to pay off our joint debt. And then we'll split it down the middle, and whatever." And honestly, that's better than what I would have hoped. Um, but as in things so often with life, it is rarely so simple. So anyway, so I decided, all right, I'm gonna move in with my mom to save money on rent, right? So that I can put that money aside and use it to fix up the house so we can get as much profitability out of the house as possible. Um so I come and talk to my mom. My mom's like, absolutely, sure, sure, sure. She makes room for me. She makes room for my daughter. My daughter has a room here at my mom's house. And I started putting money aside. I had dove right into the whole selling the house. I contacted a realtor and all that stuff and started talking. And my ex kind of came at me when I was like, hey, when I was trying to push this forward, she's like, hey, whoa, I want to do it X, Y, and Z way. I won't get into it because past is the past, even though it's only like 3, 4 months ago. Past is the past. I am very sorry. So I was like, okay, when she's ready to sell the house, I'll I'll get all this stuff ready. Okay. Well, she kept kind of implying that she was going to push off selling the house until she gets the things the way she wants them with the bank, with her hopefully new living situation and stuff and all that. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll still put some money aside, but there's no urgency for retaining cash. Because September, October, November, December, we've got, you got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Um, at least around my family's stuff. And then my daughter's birthday is in January. So I'm like, okay, well, if there's no urgency to sell the house, I'm gonna buy people Christmas presents. I'm gonna do all that because before, I was setting that money aside. And so I didn't go too crazy, but I invested that money that I had put aside into those things. Come December, she informs me that she has been out of work since the end of August or the middle of August or something like that, and it's the first time I had ever heard about it. I knew she had mentioned she'd also talked to me about maybe me and her doing something for our daughter's birthday because it would be something really nice to do for her. But if I could sponsor the cost, seeing as money was tight, that was the most I'd ever heard out of her. At the beginning of December, she asked me for some money. For it was like $20. I was like, sure, no, whatever. $20, okay, whatever. Like I generally don't talk to her. I talk to her literally just enough to communicate picking up my daughter. That's literally it. I go, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm aiming to pick her up. And then I get there and go, I'm here to pick her up. And then I pick her up, and then I take her back and I hang out with her. And then, like for the weekend or whatever, which also being at my mom's house, she can stay the night more frequently, more consistently, and all that stuff. And then I take her home and I text her mom, hey, this is when I'm going to have her home. And then when I get there, I go, I'm outside. And then she goes. And that's pretty much the amount that I talk to my ex, maybe once a week about coordinating stuff with my daughter. Um, it's caused contention between me and my ex, as she feels that I lack any communication. But I don't feel that way. I feel like every time something important has happened, like when my daughter had excessive bloody noses multiple times in a row, I kept her informed. I asked her for her insurance information. I took her to urgent care. All those things. It's not like I'm being an irresponsible parent. It's not like being an irresponsible person. I just really don't want to have to talk to her about anything that isn't necessary. Anyway, come early December, like a week and a half into December, she goes, "Hey," this is after she asked for the $20. I sent her 60. She goes, "Hey, um, I don't remember if at first she said that I need to find my own insurance, like car insurance, or she had told me that she might be considering filing for bankruptcy." And I was like, basically like, why is that? And she's all like, well, I've only got one person in that house that's working, and it's not her, and she makes enough money to pay like the mortgage. She doesn't make enough money to pay everybody's bills, which on her disability from the military, but she makes a decent chunk of change. She makes more than I do with her disability. Um, so anyway, she says, hey, I won't be able to do this and stuff like that. and I might have to file for bankruptcy or whatever to have these debts and loans forgiven and stuff like that. So, and then like within a week, she texts me, "Hey, I'm actually going to file for uh, a foreclosure prevention on the house." And she did that, and she asked me, "Hey, I need your help to do this because you're the co-signer on it." And so we've begun that process. Um, I filled out all the stuff I needed to fill out, and I communicated with the bank and all that stuff, and I've done my due diligence. I'm really trying not to talk about the emotional aspect of that. I'm trying not to talk about the the opinions that I have on the way certain things have been handled or done. And this is not necessarily against her, but in general as an over encompassing thing. Because I had to supply why can't I help her as well. The reason why we're in a position where we have to ask for this leniency against us. Um, and and I just in my my testimonial, I basically and I said that, like, I in there I said I'd like to think that I would have given her money, but I probably would have just mm, tried to convince her to sell a house, which is kind of what I did when she contacted me in August. Um I really wasn't aware that they only had one income besides her disability income. So I was really confused. And just so there's no confusion or hate or anything like that, she does experience a great deal of pain, discomfort, and difficulties with things like her carpal tunnel and back stuff and things like that. And I can empathize with that because I have really bad carpal tunnel myself. Luckily, my job doesn't require a whole lot of minute or specific hand movements. I literally just grab stuff kind of like this and release stuff. You know what I mean? Like I just pick stuff up. So it doesn't require a whole lot of fine motor skills. But I can understand the difficulties of doing anything that requires even like working a cash register might be difficult for me if I were to try and work a cash register for a couple hours. I can't even play video games at this point. Like I I have played a total of maybe an hour of video games in the last 3 weeks because of my carpal tunnel. I wake up in the middle of the night several times from just sheer pain through my entire arms. So I understand her difficulties at maintaining a job or being able to find a job which is hiring and won't require the things. And this is just the carpal tunnel aspect. She has other issues. I don't know all of her issues. Um, or at least and I'll put it this way: the ones I do know, I'm not going to discuss beyond the ones that I can relate to. But just the fact that it's debilitating for me, and I've considered borderline bankrupting myself to go to the doctor to find either a solution to this extreme pain in my own arms, or seeing if a doctor can help me file for partial disability with how incredibly painful it is. Um, I literally can't type or play on mouse and keyboard or with a controller for more than I'd say 20 minutes. I've even bought like a flight stick and a program to try and emulate keyboard presses on the way I move the flight stick so that I can have WASD, because of how incredibly painful it is to just do this for more than 10 minutes. Matter of fact, my fingers were already going numb just doing that. It's pretty bad. And I don't have the money for surgery or treatment beyond don't use it, rest it, massage it, stretch it, and heat it. And that still doesn't alleviate, not the point. I'm going off. Well, in this context, that's okay because I'm not talking about her or the situation or anything like that. Anyway, so she hold up. So anyway, she has those problems and stuff like that. Sure. Okay, I'm not gonna crap on her for any of that or anything like that. But the fact is I was unaware, or I mean I looked back through the text messages we had sent each other that weren't about our daughter. And I didn't have any real context to, I mean, I suppose I could have made that assumption. I kind of knew that something like this would happen eventually, not maybe this severe or this debilitating or whatever else it was, but I kind of thought that it would happen. Um, and this isn't against her or anything, but there's always been, a couple people who have lived at her house who have difficulties being employed. And I don't mean that they're lazy or anything like that. There are obstacles that make it difficult for them to become employed or remain employed or things like that. So there's always some people that need to be carried along with other people's um, finances. So I knew there would be some sort of pinch point. What I thought, though, is that it would be either still down the road, right? Especially after she talked about selling the house and everything. I was like, cool. This will make a lot of things nice and clean, so that we can go ahead with a divorce or whatever it is that is the right choice. Um, and part of my plan was to do all these things to make myself more viable in the court's eyes, moving into my mom's house and stuff, even before I knew about selling the house, so that we could do something like a divorce or legal separation or whatever, so that we can have this severance, because clearly, that she's decided her path in life, and I don't think I want to be involved with um, her life anymore. Um, I've still got some complicated emotions that go along with her. Um, Most of it anymore is anger and frustration. Uh, Very little patience or kindness left. Um, but that's not to say they aren't there. It's just not the present emotions. It's the ones that I'll get into that later. I'm making it sound worse than it is, but I'll get into it later. She kind of just doesn't exist for me anymore. Most of the time, cognitively, and most of the time when she is forced to be brought up in my mind, um, it's things that I find frustrating about dealing with her, or things that I find angering, or things that spotlight issues that I have with the circumstances, or the things that led to the circumstances. Um, Not that I don't, not, I do in fact think of her fondly on occasion, more often than I wish I did. I'll put it like that. Anyway, so I've done all my stuff and blah blah blah. And I, beyond her texting me this week saying that, they said that she's missing some stuff. Because I kind of had to do a few circles, loops, jump through some hoops, um, with the bank, because I mean, I didn't know exactly what they want. It's also a little bit complicated of a situation. The lady had sort of like, yeah, it's kind of weird because of me and my ex have acted as if we are divorced in pretty much every way, but we never took any legal separation of any kind. So last year we filed married but separate. So that was a little complicated, because I usually just expect one set of tax forms and one application for this, but I had to submit sort of my own application. Um, they didn't ask me to, but that's what's right and fair, because I have my own expenses, my own, income that does not attach to hers and everything, but everything's set up to file together as a single entity, for this prevention of foreclosure, or whatever the application is called. So, I submitted my own income, I submitted my own hardship letter, I submitted my own tax returns and everything, and so it makes it a little weird. And so, I dealt with the lady on the bank about that stuff, and there was a little bit of difficulty about communicating with my ex to make sure that that was all running smoothly. And now they've, besides this text this week, not this month, this week, about her saying that they're missing some stuff or something like that. I don't know exactly. I might have to bite the bullet and just like video chat with her about what it is, if they're missing anything of mine, or go through how I filled out the stuff so that she can do it that same way. Excuse me, I'm gonna need a cup of water. Anyway, that's that happening. But my idea there was that if this does go through, so fundamentally, if this doesn't go through or does go through, the practicalities of my life don't change. Um, right? So I'll end up still living with my mom and things like that. My income hopefully won't be garnished or anything like that, but I don't know. But for all intents and purposes, um, pragmatically, if this falls through, my credit tanks, but my life remains relatively the same. One way or another, if this falls through, me and her end up filing for bankruptcy, only me only technically, because I'm married to her, so both of our credits tank and stuff like that. And generally speaking, a large portion of this collective debt we have is significantly diminished for whatever reason, and therefore the division of that debt would not be as significant if we divorce. But if this turns out positive, all that money is dealt with, the solution is made, and again, we come out with little to no debt between us. So for me, however the situation turns out, it's pretty much the same situation. Um, that's how I'm treating it, is not to let myself get stressed out, not to get frazzled, angry, whatever you want to call it. Um, so that I can continue to do what I need to do to maintain my life. Um, so I think at the end of all this stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and probably file for divorce and just take whatever happens to me. The only reason I put it off is because I really don't want to, get bent over for this, for everything, especially when I have tried to do what I thought was right for me and what was right for my ability to be a good father and maintain a future and all those things. Um, Besides that, that was a weird beep. What was that? Who knows? Um, Besides that, I don't know if you've seen the cat herself. Um, but I know you've probably seen the cat tree. Um, that I've got my cat. I mean, she's my cat. Um, I don't remember when exactly, but this is one of the things that, like, that I said the few times we talked that isn't about our daughter. She had texted me a while back, I guess maybe after she lost her job, or I don't remember, because I didn't. This is kind of a stream of consciousness thing, right? This is a journal, just in video format. Um, that I'm just simply opening the pages to a potential audience. Um, but at some point, she was like, "Hey, you want the cat?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want the cat." I mean, this is a really simplified version of it. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and I almost didn't get the cat because of me working and not being able to respond immediately to her texts, and her thinking that I was ignoring her texts because of, like I said, her belief that I am intentionally being obtuse for communication. Um Out of malice or something. I don't know. But anyway, point is, I got my cat and I love her. Her name is Suki. And she's a good kitty cat. She is a little ornery sometimes. But she's a good kitty cat. You a good kitty cat? Yes, you are. Good kitty cat. Every day I come home and she's sitting right here on my bed or right in front of the door. to say hello, and I go, "Oh my goodness, you're my kitty cat. You my kitty cat, huh? You were, huh?" But I have a cat. I have my cat, and I'm stoked about it. I'm still stoked about it, and it's been a while. It's been a few months. Yeah, a few months. Yeah, and she's a good kitty cat. Anyway, other. Hey, woo! A little too much. You gonna bite me? Okay. She took a swipe at me, no claws. She gets frustrated sometimes. I mean, dealing with me, I mean, I can understand it. Hi. You sit there? Okay. Meow. She's like, "You've brought me attention. Now you must give me more." But anyway, um so I'm at almost 37,000 words in my book. I haven't been writing as much as I want, but I'm writing chapter 13 right now. Pretty much enjoying it. I've been making a board game, and the board game is pretty close to like beta testing. It's almost done. I'm only missing some. I'm only missing like this is gonna sound like a lot, but it's really not a lot. I'm only missing like 15 paragraphs, 16 paragraphs to finish it, which are literally the unique special blurbs for a unique special set of circumstances in the game. I'll put it this way: you could play the game right now without those. It's not going to be as like finalized, right? But you could play a whole round of the game without those paragraphs. Those paragraphs are sort of just like one let sort of cherries on top to the way the story gets told uh in the board game. Haven't really worked on either of my video games, but I mean I done a tiny bit of work, and I've actually been thinking a lot about my Super Metroid video game remake. I still don't know if I want to go through the whole pain and process of doing it, but I would really love to be able to just commit to it. And I think I'll abandon a few of my ideas that I really wanted to do that's been kind of getting in my way on getting my plan rolling, right? Because I was really fixated on doing this groundwork that'll make doing everything else easier. But uh, if I'm never going to figure out the way, or it's going to take me forever to do it, it's just going to be simpler, maybe not easier, but simpler in the long run to just do it the more difficult but easier way, right? Easier. It's all subjective. Um, I I'm unhappy, but I'm not wallowing in misery. And I'm unhappy because of the whole situation at work and the whole obviously ongoing frustrations and unpleasantries with my ex. Um, but acutely, I'm unhappy because I haven't been able to see my daughter in like 2 weeks because, well, about a week and a half ish. But because of, for me, it's basically 2 weeks because of how it stands out. Because my daughter got sick basically right before I would have picked her up for the weekend. And then she was sick all through her birthday, and I haven't been able to see her. So I'm not gonna be able to see her this week, and I wasn't able to see her last weekend. So basically, for me, it's 2 weeks, right? I also was supposed to see her in the middle of this last week, as because I'd asked for that time off to spend with her because it was near her birthday and everything. Um, but I'm sad about that. But I was able to talk with her about 20-25 minutes the other day on like Facebook Messenger. She's got the kids messenger on her tablet and everything. So that was nice. I was really happy to see her. I this is gonna sound bad, but it's not how it sounds, if that makes sense. Which is that I don't realize how much I miss her and how much I care about her, except for when I don't get to see her. I mean, I do appreciate having a little bit more free time, but honestly, I would give that up in a heart. I mean, I'll utilize that free time, right? I will do my best to enjoy my free time, but I'd much rather give up that free time to spend it with her. It's I don't realize how much I'm willing to spend that free time, how much I'm willing to, because being a parent, even if it's only a few days, can be difficult sometimes. You don't share all the same interests as your kid. You don't want to do all the same things as your kid, and you have to be a parent. You have to be. It's not always about fun, right? It's about being responsible, teaching them, and things like that. And that can be a little. It can be a bit of a downer. And so, in those moments where it is a bit of a downer, I'd be like, man, I really want to just write my book right now, or sit down and play some video games, or blah 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 blah. You know, and sometimes she's invested in something else enough that I can ask her, hey, I'm gonna go do this, for 30 minutes or whatever, and it'll be fine. But lacking her there makes me wish I could be even do those unpleasant parts of parenting because of how much I miss her. Like they are worth the time, and it's always hard to remember something in the present, especially when you're acutely dealing with something. What's this? Nothing important. All right. Halo Infinite was good. Loved Halo Infinite. Got some few complaints, but overall, I'm happy with it. Didn't pick up really any of the other games I was looking forward to this season, if you will. And the elephant in the room, Wheel of Time show. So I'm just gonna say how I feel about it, but then I'm gonna give it its fair bit, right? Like I'm gonna give you my knee-jerk reaction to the full thing, and then I'm gonna be fair and be considerate, which is I don't like it. It sucks. But I understand there's a lot of work, and sometimes it's hard to see the totality of what you're working on when you've got so many aspects to make sure, like a showrunner or a director and stuff has so many moving parts that sometimes you lose focus, you lose passion for putting out something that makes a difference. I mean, hell, Marvel does a good job most of the time, but every so often they miss, or only half of their movies. Also, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Oh, it's everything. I mean, obviously, you can always find complaints. You can always find something that you felt like they should have done. But Spider-Man: No Way Home, I was so happy. I've seen it twice in theaters, and I really want to go see it a third time, but I don't have the money. The first time I went, somebody paid for my ticket. The second time I went, I paid for my ticket. So I've only paid for it once, but I've seen it twice. But if you're a fan of the Marvel films, if you're a fan of Spider-Man, if you're a fan of a fun escape from reality, you should go and see it. It's so now back to the Wheel of Time disappointment. I am on my third read through of the books. And the only reason I continued because I had started doing the third read through before the show came out, and I kind of stopped once the first episode came out. Well, kind of. I'd actually started reading other books that people had suggested to me. But the only reason I continued my read through was I was so disappointed that I needed to get the source material to wash the bad taste out of my mouth. I know I still haven't gotten to the consideration part. There are some things they did really good. Excluding the Aes Sedai, the wardrobes were fantastic. Trollocs were fantastic. The visual choices for Tar Valon and Shadar Logoth and Emond's Field and the Two Rivers, all really good. They really pinned down the visual stuff. I didn't care much for the channeling, but I don't fucking care about that. That's not an important thing. I mean, it is important, but the particular direction they took with it didn't bastardize anything. Matter of fact, the inside the ways was doesn't look anything like the books, but I'm okay with it. I actually really like the way the ways look. Like that is fine. My issue with the ways is needing to channel to open them because that just throws a wrench into so many plots down the road. You know what I mean? Uh, the stuff with the Eye of the World. What the fuck? Like honestly, I really like the way they showed Baalzamon and kind of a representation of him and how they pulled like all the stuff to deal with Baalzamon and dealing with the Dragon Reborn, right? With the one flashback sequence and all that stuff, right? How they pulled from later points in the book and other themes that come up down the road, with fighting the Shadow and all that stuff, and fighting for dealing with Forsaken and the Dark One and all that, and how they took that inspiration and took other stuff you learn about Luz Theron and what's happened with him and why he ended up failing when fighting the Dark One, right? Like all of that, I actually really love that. Hated the Eye of the World. I hated the way they did the seal in the Dark One's prison. I mean, I'll put it this way. I didn't hate that specifically, but if that had just been a focus, like these are temples that are spread throughout the world, and these are focuses for the seal. Cool. Just scale up the way they do the seals in the book. That's fine. I'm okay with that. A little strange, makes some of the plot points a little weird, but I'm okay with that. Plenty of in-universe things from the books could sort of substitute that, right? Because all that really matters when it comes to the seals is that there are 7 of them and that they are lost, right? They are lost and no one knows where they are. And there's plenty of stuff that's gotten lost over the last 3,000 years since the breaking of the world. Tons of things, right? So absolutely, you could have them be these temples of focal points for sealing the Dark One. Cool. All right, fine with that. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't have anything to do with Agenor or any of the, or Bathamel or any of that, right? Like, sure, you got to cut Forsaken, that's fine. But I was hoping they would do a little bit more. The thing with Pot Fane having almost no relevance kind of sucked. I was fine with the horn being at Fal Dara. That's fine. Oh, I guess people don't know about that. Just I'll leave it that vague and blank as much as possible. Sorry if I did spoil anything. But the stuff at Fal Dara and all that, that's fine. I did not like Mat abandoning his friends. Even fucking corrupt Mat. First off, he was supposedly healed of the corruption, which kind of is fine and kind of isn't. My issue is that she says basically she severed him from the dagger. Moiraine is exceptionally good at healing for being Blue Aja and being one woman. But it is stated many times she only removes the corruption that was there. She doesn't actually heal him. She doesn't sever the link to the dagger. He still needed that dagger. Like, even if she had like brought in some like if it was just her and Siwan, or Swan, however you want to say it, it was just those two, that would still be more linked. That would still be more appropriate than having Moiraine do it herself. Lan was pretty great, except for that one episode that a lot of people complain about. And I'm not saying Lan isn't allowed to have emotions, but you know what? It would have been so much more impactful. Establish a little bit more that Moiraine and Lan can feel each other's emotions, and have like Lan at the funeral, like have his hand on his buddy, and like just like super extra dead face emotion with like one tear like starting to well at the corner of his eyes, and you see Rosamund Pike's character Moiraine off in the corner hiding, right? Just start bawling her eyes out, just like full-fledged as she's looking at Lan, right? Like just show how much Lan is hurting, but how much he's just cramming all those emotions down. Because I'm not saying Lan is an emotional, because that's some arguments people have made, people claiming that, book purists are ruining this whole thing or whatever else. I'm fine, all right, but that's not what I'm saying, is that he's got no emotions or blah blah blah. And of course you'd have emotions if you're, a good friend of yours for 15 years died, of course. But Lan doesn't let those things out. It's a huge part of his character that his love interest in the books helps him become a more full person, and his relationship to Rand and Perrin and Mat, like, they make him more human. They bring out who he is, because Moraine has been so focused on her mission and Lan has been so focused on his mission that they've only ever helped each other sort of shove their emotions away. That's also a huge reason. Like, I fucking loved when Moraine and Lan are in the tub in Emmons Field at the wine spring. Shows the very beautiful scene to show the intimacy between a warder and Aes Sedai without it being like, without it having to be sexual. You know what I mean? Just like how they're so comfortable around each other, how it means nothing to them, and they're having a little witty banter. That was a beautiful fucking scene. Again, no issue with it. I didn't really have an issue with them, hauling off Nynaeve. I thought it was stupid, but Nynaeve with the Trollocs, fine. I'm okay with adapting the source material, but make sure you're actually using the source material. Something that cheapens Maureen's character in the TV show. Sorry, this turned from a video journal into a fucking rant about Wheel of Time. It cheapens Siuan's character and it cheapens Maureen's character to have them be lovers, and it's fine. I don't give a shit. There's tons. It's nothing to do with the lesbians or gays or anything like that. There's tons of that in the book. And I actually think it's really fucking cool, especially super progressive of Robert Jordan when he started making the book in the fucking 90s, early 90s, literally 90s, uh and that's not the issue. The issue is that their Blue Aja are so idealistic and so driven by purpose and what they think their purpose is in the world, that to have them in a relationship almost feels like one of them is doing it because the other one believes in it. And for me, it felt more like Siuan is supporting Moraine only because they're lovers. That's how it felt. And it cheapens both characters extremely. And it's fucking sad that a friendship cannot be strong enough without there being some sexual tension. I guess you could establish that, like, really clearly that there's no weird love triangle by making Moraine have a love interest in Siuan, right? But you could have also, my boy Tom, just they sort of gave him that world traveled wisdom, but they made him more of an asshole than, I know we only know him for like maybe 30 minutes tops, which is tragic, but they could have had him more in the show and had him have this playful thing with Moraine, and Lan being like, establish more of that potential relationship. I guess spoilers. There's a thing between Moraine and Tom. I'll just say that without giving any more context of whether it works out or doesn't or anything like that. But you could have used that as an opportunity to have that severance. And I don't care. Have it be with Alana or whatever else. But it just cheapens their relationship. You could, because I know it's, I worry that when you heard me talk about the Tom and Moraine thing, that it's like, get away from the whole girl on girl. No. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I really fucking don't give a shit. All right. But it's the fact of those two specifically. That's my issue. Have it be with Moraine and Alana, or Moraine and literally any other Aes Sedai. Hell, have it just be a fucking innkeeper. I don't care. Like, just not those two. I'm just saying you could use the if you're looking to separate Lan and Moiraine, so it's not doesn't seem like some weird love triangle between Lan and his interest in the show, which is accurate, but that's not the point. Actually, I really appreciated that. It felt like all the missing pieces from Eye of the World book sort of were helped mold with looks and sort of witticisms between each other. That's not my point. My point is is that if you wanted to use a relationship, someone having a relationship with Moiraine to sever the weird love triangle, which honestly, you better get used to the weird love triangles if you're going to go anywhere near book accurate continuing on for the TV show. But anyway, I'm just saying you could use Tom. You could use literally anybody else. And using Tom would just help establish the stuff that does happen later. You know what I mean? Like, make it less. Because, I mean, the stuff that does happen later feels a little bit out of the blue, but not quite. Like, it feels like I didn't really see that. But, I mean, it doesn't feel wrong, but it doesn't add up to me. Like, at least on my first read through, it felt like that. But just also the whole there's a bunch of small shit that people are like, oh, I love it, or what does it matter? It matters. Like, it really fucking matters. Like, well, it depends on what story they're going to tell, but just trying to logically piece things together, I don't understand why the shawl is a much larger representation of an Aes Sedai and her Aja and her commitment to the world and her being a servant of all than the ring is. Why have the ring colored? It actually diminishes it because the ring means you are connected in an initiate of the tower. You know what I mean? Like, accepted get the ring. Aes Sedai get the shawl. Like, the shawl is much more a representation of it, right? And I kind of get trying to establish these pools, these islands, these isolationisms of the Ajas, but having everybody color coded and their rings color coded kind of defeats the purpose of the whole tower breaking. Well, tower breaking, you know, like the subterfuge and the espionage that ends up happening within the tower ends up. Well, I worry that it'll end up feeling cheaper and less significant because you've already established these huge rifts between the Ajas that are only supposed to be very subtle and very, very hidden. You know what I mean? And, well, I guess, why am I... I suppose I'm talking at you like you're really standing here. I just haven't had anybody to talk to about it. Somebody doesn't... I don't have anybody who knows the books as well as I do in my life. My dad did, but, you know, he's dead, so... Oh, well. But seriously, there's the biggest problems I have. Aja's being color coded down to their fucking boots. I mean, maybe not. I've only watched the show once, but that's how it felt. That ruins sort of that whole plot line to deal with the White Tower. Moiraine and Siuan being hooked up. That sort of cheapens their quest. It almost makes it feel like either one's pushing the other or they're both sort of pushing each other. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean like they're both twisted up in the belief that the other one cares more about it than they do. It muddles it for me. Waygate's needing channeling to use. That ruins a whole lot of stuff to do with Perrin later on. Mat abandoning his friends, totally not in Mat's character, especially if he's been severed from the dagger. Like, doesn't make sense. Moiraine being shielded or stilled, I know it's probably shielding. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's call it stilling. I mean, I could see them using that as a way to figure out how to do certain things that happen in, was it book 5 or book 6, but doing that earlier. You know, the stuff that happens in Saladar with how do I put this without spoiling anything? The stuff that happens in Saladar with uh, uh, with an accepted that is connected to Thalaine. Is her name Thalaine? I don't remember, but still, you those who know what I'm talking about, how is that gonna fucking work? You know what I mean? Like, like skipping, rolling that into Moiraine. If she's still, you could do that whole thing with her instead of with the person who gets stilled in the books, right? Okay, if she's shielded, then you could go into the fact that she needs to find Rand. I'm assuming that you've either mostly finished the show or whatever else, but she has to go find Rand so that, because it was Saidin that shielded her, now she's got to find someone who can help her be unshielded, since it's Saidin and not Saidar. Which, also another thing, I'm fine with the channeling, but there's nothing to let the audience know that men can't see women and women can't see men channeling. And also that non-channelers can't see channelers channeling. Like, beyond the fact that some people are just kind of muted to it, like they're not reacting in a way that there's a giant swirl of light, there is no context to whether or not they know, can or cannot see someone channeling. There's no context of that division of men and women channeling beyond the taint showing up on Saidin. But there's nothing. It's just that message is really muddy. And I personally don't know, with everything else I've done, I don't know if they're implying that people can or can't, like women can see Saidin being woven or vice versa. Like, I don't know, because of the decisions they made, if that's another decision they made, that they can both see each other channel, or no one can see anybody channel, or what is it? It's like, I don't know. It's just so muddy. Oh God. And then Loial, they nerfed Loial. Like, he just feels so, I mean, I did kind of like him in the ways when he was all like, Tal'Virin, and I was just like, because I was like, fucking, I just heard Matt, like Book Matt being like, I'm no bloody Ta'Veren. I'll not be hearing that. on my current third read through, I am like chapter 3 or chapter 4 in book 4, The Shadow Rising, on my third read through, and just like Matt being Matt is just, you know what I mean? There was the bubble of evil that happened. That's what just most recently happened, and the repercussions from that, but not the next thing that happens, the next big thing that happens after the bubble of evil. But Matt would never abandon his friends. He would act like he would. He would be angry, and he would kick and pout and throw his feet and kick dirt and all that stuff. But he would never, even, especially him being cleansed of the evil from the dagger, and in the show being severed from the dagger, especially, he would never abandon his friends. Ever, ever, ever. That is just not who Matt is. Up until that point, Matt was perfect, especially with all the taint stuff. My brother, who was asking me, my brother only read to book 9. He never really, he never picked it up again. So it's not like he has any fresh memories. And he stopped reading it in like high school or college or something like that. And he's older than I am. So he's the oldest of my siblings. Well, not the oldest of my siblings. The oldest of us boy siblings. And he was all like, was Matt like, Matt's like an asshole? I'm like, no, that is like perfect for his corruption by the dagger in Wheel of Time. Like, spot on. Great job. Rand's a fucking great ass job like pretty much writing wise the whole time, that's pretty good. That's pretty good representation of Rand. Well, I can't say a little whiny, but a little bit weird his actions at the end of the series, but not out of the realm of who Rand is as a character. They didn't write Rand wrong at all. Egwene, they made her like book 7 Egwene and not like book 1 through 4 Egwene. They made Egwene feel way too far along maturity wise. Well, it's like they kind of took book 3 Egwene and then like book 6 or 7 Egwene and kind of made that into what took that Egwene and put her in book 1. And it's just without the knowledge that she has at that point, obviously, but it just feels so wrong. And Nynaeve was too placid, but my brother said, I said, Nynaeve not book accurate. And my brother looks at me and goes, the one that's read only up to book 9, he goes, if they put book accurate Nynaeve in the show, I said no one would like her. And he goes, no one would like her. See, I hated Nynaeve up until like book 6 on my first go through. But the second go through, Nynaeve is such a beautifully complex character, and she's such a good person. I just couldn't see it with how much of a, well, I won't say the word, but how much of an outwardly expressive person she is. It's all just, it's all just a tough exterior kind of thing. And I guess they kind of showed that a little bit, but she was way too soft in the TV show. Oh my God. And not enough braid tugging and pulling. Admittedly, actually, on my third read through, I've been trying to pay attention to the braid tugs. They don't really start coming in till book 3. Like, she didn't tug her braid much in 1 and 2. She made a lot of scoffs, huffs, and fiddling with her skirts, but not a whole lot of braid tugging in the first 2 books. Not a whole lot in book 3 either. Book 4, they're far more common, but of course, there's a lot more stress in book 4. And yeah, Tom not being there, that's sad. Loyal, I get wanting to try and do practical, but it's kind of a disappointment. I would have preferred if they had done like forced perspective stuff, or even just like comped him in. I mean, I don't like the design, but even if they had made the design and just made him bigger, or given him slightly more like exaggerated features, like taking the practical and use that as a stepping stone to do very minor alterations, like maybe skin tone alterations, whatever. And I don't mean about him being black, or I don't actually give a shit about that either. Like, that was a huge complaint by a lot of people, was like, there's too much diversity. And I would say there's too much diversity, but not in the same way that a lot of people are saying it. All that really matters to me when it comes to the lack of diversity is that you make each culture and each country very clearly divided. Big cities, Caemlyn, Tar Valon, all that stuff. Honestly, Faldara with the Shienarans. Great job. I always pictured them a little bit more Mongolian, but it doesn't fucking matter. Honestly, as long as all the Borderlanders are some iteration of each other's ethnicity, I don't care. In the book, it's implied that they're all vaguely Asian continental, right? But it doesn't matter. You could have made all the fucking Borderlanders white, or I don't know, Latin descent. I don't care. Like, as long as you have clearly defined cultures and peoples and faces that goes along with it, right? Make all Andorans black. I really don't give a shit, but just have them consistent. And it's fine. Like, Two Rivers, besides Mat, I had no issue with any of the. Well, okay, Matt Senbui was too white. If you're going to go with that sort of, mixed ethnicity that they were kind of going for, Egwene looked a little too um, Eastern compared to everybody else. I just wish they would have been a little bit more consistent with that. But of course, if you show Gil'Danan didn't really look all that Eastern, but that could make sense because Gil'Dan is just on the other, southwest of the mountains of Mist. So, I mean, there is that because of Manetheren being, Eastern Gil'Dan, Eastern Almeth, Western Andor, Northern, Western Mirandy, Northern Altara, you get my point. Like that, Emond's Field, honestly, I don't have a huge issue with. I wish they wouldn't have made Matt so white. I wish they would have made him actually look a little bit more related to the people in town. And I get that's why they made Senbui and stuff like that, but then they should have shown more white characters than what they showed. If they're going to go with Emond's Field being a very biodiverse thing to keep the question of who's the Dragon Reborn and who isn't the Dragon Reborn, fine. I get that. That's fine. Whatever. Cool. But just establish it then. Because you went with all these very dark tones, which absolutely, I don't give a shit. Daniel Green makes a very good point in one of his videos before the show ever came out, that in the books, and I was paying attention for it when I was going back through the books, in Barillon, in Whitebridge, in Caemlyn, it talks about people being darker and being lighter than Egwene. I don't think it talks about, in retrospect, to anybody else's skin tone, besides maybe Rand, but Rand is kind of the outlier here with his particular lineage. But yeah, I mean, I get wanting to, because Matt would be the other person that would be the best tenant. But if you said that he could be reborn to any 5, regardless of gender, if the Dragon Reborn could be born into any gender or even have his soul split, then it wouldn't have mattered. You should have just kept consistency, right? Like the stuff I saw with the very little we saw with Tyr, with Siwan and her father. Great, awesome, cool. I don't care what they chose, but the fact is they were consistent. That kind of Polynesian look. Well, I don't know if it's Polynesian, but you know what I mean? Pacific Islander, Polynesian, whatever it is. Cool. I mean, it's great that they kept a dark tone since they live near the equator and all that stuff. Cool. But the fact is that there's a consistency there, and you can see the cultural differences, especially with the tattoos. Awesome. The fucking Shinarans, awesome. Tar Valon doesn't fucking matter, because Tar Valon's like a center point for the fucking world, right? It's like going to LA or going to New York or Washington DC, like any of those places. It's just there's so many groups of people going and coming from there. It doesn't matter. And I know I only listed American places, but I'm American and my scope on the world is very narrow, and I don't want to say anything stupid about things I don't understand. So I'm going to speak from a point of understanding and reference. Anyway, not the point. That's fine. Huge issue, though. Loial being chased in Tar Valon. That was my biggest issue with Tar Valon and Caemlyn being switched from the books in this series of events. Tar Valon citizens would never chase Ogier. They know what a fucking Ogier is. They would not chase him. Not at all. Aes Sedai also wouldn't let it happen. And also, there would be an Aes Sedai, like, coming to visit fucking Loial, especially in Tar Valon, because I think the closest, what is it? Is it Sofu? No, it's not Sofu. It's the one that's over towards the Sand Hills, and I don't mean the abandoned steading. I mean the actual steading. Like, there's one nearer Caemlyn than it is to Tar Valon. I think the closest one to Tar Valon is it? It's not Shangtai. I think it is Sofu up in Shinar. I think. Is Sofu up in Shinar? Or is it in northern Caemlyn? Cairhien. Not the point. Point is that there's no steading like right near Tar Valon. I mean, I know they have Ogiers go and, maintain stonework and stuff like that. But if there was Ogier in Tarvalin, they would be treated with respect and probably have Aes Sedai coming visiting them. But that was my only real issue with them switching Tarvalin and Caemlyn. I would have liked to see Caemlyn. I would have liked to have the Elaine, storyline. I didn't have a huge issue with them putting Min in Fal Dara. A little weird, a little strange, a little forced. I think it would have been better to just have her be like in passing, like kind of how it was in Barillon. And then because I mean, I don't know. I guess it gave them more time to establish Egwene and Nynaeve getting to know Min, but still a little weak. No huge complaints, more just disappointed that they stuck Min in Fal Dara. It just felt weird. It felt off. Didn't feel right to me. Those are all the real biggest points I have. Also, Fane didn't seem nearly detached and unhinged as he is in the books, and he really needed to, especially with. I mean, unless he's still working with the dark at this point, you know what I mean? Because remember, it's Shadar Logoth that sort of he severs his connection to the shadow to a certain extent. But if he never had that instance, if he never went into Shadar Logoth, then he'd still be a full-fledged dark friend and all that stuff. And that's fine, but then he has no reason to run away with the chest from Fal Dara. There's no point to it. He'll just take it north. He won't go to Falma to encourage his prey to follow him. Other than revenge, and that's a very poor reasoning for any of the characters. It's a very lazy reasoning. But I think that's all my real complaints. I absolutely love the Logain stuff. Especially when he was trying to be venomous and inflammatory when he knew he was going to be gentled. That was good. I spent the last 20, 30 minutes just ranting about Wheel of Time. Holy shit. Well, you know what? At least it's invigorating, right? It's promotes me not dwelling on my other misfortunes of life. Metroid Dread, loved it. They did a really good job with that. Both the video games that came out that I actually picked up, Metroid Dread and Infinite. Whoo, that made me really happy. Both of those made me really happy. I've only played Metroid Dread once. Because I don't own a Switch, so I had to borrow my brother's Switch, but I did buy the chip for it. So I'll have another opportunity at some point to play it. My kitty cat. Meow. My kitty cat. Meow. Anyway, yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say, really. I mean, it's pretty much up to everything. My car is about to die. I'm pretty sure I've got maybe a year left, maybe 2 years left with my car before it kills itself. I just don't have the time or the money to actually fix it. I think I threw out one of the rods, the piston rod, whatever you call it, because I'm hearing some knocking. Hopefully, it's just like a muffler problem. Hopefully, I don't know. If not, I'm fucked. But I know it's been progressively getting worse and worse, and being the engine being getting louder and louder. And then I hit a pothole, massive. I hit a pothole, and and after that, that's when the knocking started. or it's almost like a puttering sound, but it's also got a distinctive like bump to it. So transmission feels like it slips sometimes. So who's to say? Yeah, it's I think that's it. I mean, hit me back, Shouty, let me know. Yeah, I'm not gonna wallow. Um, I'm unhappy with my work. I'm unhappy with how things are going with my ex. Surprise, surprise. Um, Financially, I'm in a pinch, but it's kind of my own fault. I cut a day a week so that I could spend more time with my daughter and being able to accomplish other tasks and maintain on my chores and stuff like that. Because I'm a kind of a I need that little bit of wiggle room, and I love spending time with my daughter, but when I would just do that, it wouldn't feel like I had any time at all. Because it's pretty much I just wake up, go to work, come home, go to sleep, and rinse, repeat. Spend some time with my daughter, get maybe an hour or two every few days. So I mean, like I said, I've appreciated utilizing this free time that I've had not seeing her, but I really miss her like a lot. It made me really happy to talk with her on the phone. And then I saw like a tick. I'm not on TikTok, but they come across my desk, if you will, and I saw this TikTok of this dad and this daughter, and it made me really miss my daughter today. Oh well, life goes on, and we keep chugging along, and we try and do our best. So I will see you at some other point. Auf Wiedersehen.